In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the scale behavior of charts that are on dashboards that are animated or interactive. So for example, I've got this particular situation where the chart is reading off of this table component, and as I select each item in the table component, the chart changes. Now, notice the y-axis. The y-axis right now is from 0 to 3500, but as I move this, or select each data item in the table, this y-axis changes, and it goes up and down and in and out, and it goes all over the place, and it could be very distracting for a user. So there are different ways you can handle this, and we'll go through those ways right now. Let's go to design mode and double click on the chart, and you'll notice here under behavior tab there's a section called scale behavior. Now it's already set on auto scale. The default setting for scale behavior on all charts is auto scale. That means that no matter what the chart does, it'll kind of go out and figure out what the scale should be. Now there's a couple of options here. You can do manual scale. Now manual scale is where you can actually set the minimum and maximum limit. Now we know from this table here that the maximum limit will be about 5,500 given the numbers that we see here. So I can set it to 5,500, and when I do that and preview it, you'll see here that no matter what I change here now, or no matter what data item I select in the table, you'll see that the scale doesn't change. It stays the same. Now, although this does give your chart a little bit of stability, you'll see that if I select a selection with very low numbers, the bars practically disappear. So this is probably not the best selection either. So we'll go back to design mode, double click on the chart again, and then we'll change the scale behavior from manual to auto zoom out. This is the last option. Now, again, recommended for animation, it says right here, but what does that mean, auto zoom out? Well, it basically means that your scale can zoom up, but it can't ever go back down. So let's go ahead and play this now, and you'll see that our first selection, our scale shows from 0 to 60. Now if I select the next one here, it grows to 0 to 800. But if I go back down to this selection, it doesn't go back down to 0 to 60 again. It stays at 0 to 800. So basically it zoomed out, but it didn't zoom back in. Again, it zoomed out, but when I do this, select a lower number, it doesn't zoom back in. So this is one way to get your animation or interactive charts to scale more predictably. Again, not a very good solution for all cases, right? So there's one last thing that you can do for the user, and that's basically give him the option of doing what he likes. So how do I do that? Well, let's double click on the chart here, and then we'll get to the properties window, and there's a section here called runtime options. Now runtime options allows you to give your users a scale behavior menu that allows them to change the scale behavior at runtime. So for example, I can click on show scale behavior options. When I click on this, you'll notice in the upper left hand corner there's a little button that pops up in your chart. If I click on print preview, I can hover my mouse over it and I can see three options: on, off, or auto. On allows the user to turn on auto zoom out. Off allows the user to turn off auto zoom out, and then auto allows the user to go back to auto scaling. So the default is on. That means that right now it's on auto zoom out. If I click on this, it's going to basically zoom out just like we just talked about, but it won't zoom back in. Then we can go back to auto if we want to. Okay, so the user has the option to either turn on auto zoom out or just keep it on auto. Now, along with our scale behavior options, we can also add a couple of other things to our little runtime menu. One is a reset scale button, and the other is a focus button. And again, you can just select either one, two, or all three of these things. But let's go ahead and go to print preview. And now that when we hover our mouse over the button, you'll see two other options: a focus chart data and a reset chart scale. Now, focus chart data is great when you have a situation where you have lots of different varying types of data or varying scales of data, and you've got your chart on auto grow or auto zoom out, and when you go back down to a lower number, your scale stays the same. You can go here and click on focus chart data, and the scale will automatically change and focus in on the data that's in here. So again, I can click on a lower number, go to focus chart data, it does the same thing. The Reset Scale button here allows the user to force the chart to revert back to the scale that it had when the chart first loaded. So that's basically it. Those are your scale behavior options. And again, just to recap, all charts start off on auto scale, which basically says Crystal Xcelsius will determine what the scale is going to be. If that doesn't work for you, you can select manual scale, which basically allows you yourself to determine what the upper and lower limits are going to be. And then there's also auto zoom out, which allows the chart to zoom up when it needs to, but not zoom back down. And then also you can use the runtime options to include a scale behavior menu, allowing a user to have some flexibility on how he sees the scales in your charts.